We weren't here with you live, but this week we live and in person. If you don't know, now you know this is the Life Malcolm Show right here on In Touch News Radio. I am your host, Life Malcolm, and really appreciate you joining us, tuning in. I don't know how you're listening right now, but I do want you to know that you can check us out on Facebook at the In Touch News Facebook page. You can check us out on YouTube on the In Touch News YouTube channel. And you can just go to intouchnews.com and check us out as well. Also, you can call in at 813-444-9588. It's a call-in show. Believe it or not, it is. But I know what happens sometimes. People, so what happens every now and then is there are replays. Sometimes, like last week when I couldn't be in studio, we replayed broadcast from the previous week. And sometimes on Thursdays, most Thursdays, we replay the Tuesday show. And so people hear me, on the replays, shout out the number, probably not looking at the little writing in the screen that says this is a replay. And so they call in the number and can't get in. And then on the live broadcast, they don't call the number because they don't never answer the phone. Like people tell me that. I'm like, no, we answer when the show is live. So, go ahead and call in now. We're live right here in the studio, 813-444-9588. And today's going to be a pretty fun show. I mean, I got something in store for you. You're going to enjoy it, and you can be a part of it, too. You should call in and check it out. I'm going to tell you what it's going to be in a minute, but as is my custom, I have to go ahead and give a shout-out to the people who make this thing possible. My main man, DJ CEO, and my sister, Mrs. DJ CEO, a.k.a. Tampa Bay Tammy, for making this In Touch News Radio thing a reality, a possibility, keeping the Life Malcolm Show in your face, right here like that, every day. Every week, keeping this in your face, man, just allowing us to come here and share news. And I saw one of my neighbors the other day, shout out to Donna, walking down the street. She's like, Life, you be talking a whole lot. And like, you need to get to the point of the show. And I'm like, look, Donna, it's a whole hour. And sometimes I don't have a guest or nothing like that, so I got to talk. But I appreciate people watching, and I appreciate them allowing me to just kind of get up in here and just talk, like Malcolm would say, talk shop. Because I don't get a lot of time to just talk with people these days. And I don't know if you know about my background. I used to do spoken word events every week, every Tuesday. It might be how we decided to do this event on this show on Tuesday nights, because every Tuesday for like 13 years, every single Tuesday, didn't miss one, every single Tuesday put on a spoken word event. And so I like being with people and talking to people and shaking hands and all that, So, I appreciate the In Touch News family for allowing me to just get up here on the Life Malcolm Show and talk shop. But we also, do some very important things on the Life Malcolm Show. We talk about politics, history, law stuff, and we're going to get into some law stuff tonight. And we're going to pick a jury. That's what we're going to do tonight. Tonight we are going, I was trying to hold it, as a surprise, but I'm letting you know, tonight we're going to go through what's called voir dire. That's VOIR, one word. Next word, DIRE, voir dire. That's what the process is when you pick a jury from what's called the veneer. Yeah, now you see, you learn something right here on the Life Malcolm Show. So we have a veneer of one, and from that one, we're going to pick a jury. Because what had happened was, last week, I was supposed to go to trial and pick a jury. And so, I'm spending all this time writing my voir dire for the jury. And we in court, and the state would not back off the deal. It was to set it up. And I'm going to say it when we come back from the break, too. So you'll know, you'll have a kind of concept of why the voir dire, why I framed it the way I did. But it's a racing, so let me, I can't tell you because you don't really get to know exactly what the case is about when you're on in the veneer. So I'm not going, but I'll say this. The case was such a case that if the our client, had taken any kind of deal, it would have ended up with his license suspended. If he got convicted, would have ended up with his license suspended just based on the statute. And we kept for almost, I think we had a case like 6-7 months. Uh, uh, you know. Asking, I was going to say pressing, but we weren't really pressing, but we were definitely asking the state to back down off the offer, amend the charge to some kind of charge that would allow our client to, pay some fines, fees, maybe a little probation or whatever, but, keep his license because he had to keep his driver's license, and the state would not do it. So we say, let's go to trial. It's a misdemeanor, though. I think it was like a second-degree misdemeanor. The most he probably could have gotten was 60 days in jail, right? But his license would be suspended for almost 6 months, would have been detrimental to his lifestyle. So client did not want that. So we got to go to trial. It was a good case for trial because it was something like a his word against their word kind of case. Police said he was doing this and he said he wasn't doing that. And there was, very little evidence that the state could use to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Good case for trial. So we get in court, ready to go to trial, and the judge hit us with a monkey wrench. He says, okay, what we're going to do today is pick the jury, which we were prepared to do. We were prepared to go to trial. Pick the jury today, but we're going to go to trial on either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And we're like, we got stuff to do, player. And so the state was like, well, I got trial on Wednesday, so I can't do it on Wednesday. And, the managing attorney at the firm where I work, he had something to do on Friday, so they left Thursday. But the thing is, we had other stuff to do because we thought this was going to be a one-day pick-and-go kind of trial, pick a jury and go kind of trial. Didn't work out like that. So now we talking to the state again about these charges. Like, yo, what's up, man? Like, do we have to go through it? And eventually, make a long story short, the state backed down off the charge and offered a new deal that did not include driver's license suspension. And so, since the state came with that offer, we had to convey that offer to the client, and the client was like, "Yo, come back Thursday." Like, so I can take this deal right now, or come back Thursday and go through this trial, and I might get off, or I might get my license suspended. He was like, I'll just go ahead and take the deal. So he took the deal, much to it's his choice. It was all good. I wasn't mad, but I really wanted to pick that jury because I worked hard on this voir dire. It's a unique kind of case. I worked hard on this voir dire, and there was a cop involved in the case who I really wanted to get at in cross-examinations, but the client took the deal, and so I couldn't do my voir dire, and needless to say, couldn't do my cross-examination. But tonight, I get to do my voir dire. I was like, it's not going to go by the wayside tonight. I'm going to voir dire. You're going to hear me ask the question. I'm going to do it just like I was in the courtroom, too. Like, I should have worn my suit. I should have worn my suit. But just imagine me in a suit. It was raining out there, man. I didn't want to get my clothes wet like that. But now that I'm thinking, the whole thing is gonna be just like I would have presented it to the veneer in the hearing. And I'm gonna tell you like how it goes in case you've never been a part of jury selection, never seen it happen in a trial. I'm gonna kind of explain how it goes to you in a few minutes, and then jump right into it, man. I think we're gonna have some fun. The questions and the way I presented, I think, are gonna elicit some interesting responses from our juror or a potential juror, and it's going to be a good time. But I just want to say this before I go to the break, that, man, I had an incredible weekend. A friend of mine, gave me some tickets to the Keith Sweats concert. And, man, I was up in there. I tell you this, I don't know who been putting on these concerts lately, but they start on time down there at the Amalie Arena. If you think you're going to, you can come in fashionably late, you're going to fashionably miss a whole lot of stuff that you probably wanted to see. I got in there, Tevin Campbell was singing, and, it was like Silk and 112 and all, but I got in there, Tevin Campbell was singing. I got there probably maybe, 30, 40 minutes late. I don't know how long they had them people on stage because I wasn't that late. And Tevin Campbell was already up there. And Tevin did his thing, and Monica, we bless her heart. She's well on Monica, for bless her heart. And but Keith Sweat had his, he was going on. He had it going on. I ain't gonna lie. Now, he never been one of my favorite singers, but he put on it wasn't even like a really good. Like he had a good show, but he had good showmanship. I don't know if you can like Prince puts on a good show. Like you'll be like you're gonna be mesmerized. That one woman that he used to work with, you're gonna be mesmerized. With but Keith Sweat. He gonna take you down memory lane. He gonna keep it real, and he gonna make sure that you have a good time while you listening to him. So shout out to my friend who hooked me up with the show tickets, and when we get back, we're gonna do this jury picking. And right here on the Life Malcolm Show, I'm your host, Life Malcolm. Call in. You can be a part of the jury if you want to. We'll put you right on the line, and you can answer some of these questions right here on In Touch News. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
The last stop on the Love Train Tour, starring the OJs. It's your last chance to see your favorite group. The OJs live in concert. With Gerald Austin and the Manhattans. Friday, August 26th in the Straz Center. Also featuring Shirley Murdoch. The OJs with hit after hit. With Gerald Austin and the Manhattans and Shirley Murdoch.
Say goodbye.
Friday, August 26th in the Straz Center. It's the farewell tour for the OJs. For tickets, go online to StrazCenter.org. Put your hands together for the OJs, Gerald Austin, the Manhattans, and Shirley Murdoch.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
Back at your world on the other side of the break. It's the Life Malcolm Show. I'm your host, Life Malcolm. As you heard me say a bit ago, we're going to pick a jury in just a few minutes. But I wanted to say a little bit more about my weekend, man. The Keith Sweat concert was dope. Bumped into so many people I hadn't seen in a while, and it was just like, just a good feeling to be around people, just doing good stuff. Hanging out, looking successful, looking like they made it, buying them high-ass drinks. The Amelie, what? Hey, the Amelie Theater be robbing you, player. I'm telling you, I bought myself and a friend of mine, he had a double, I had a double. They said $61. I said, what? 2 ounces for the price of almost 2 bottles. It's like, all right, damn. But it was, but it was a good time. But seeing people just in the chilling, fellowshipping, dressing, it was cool. I went on a Segway tour, around the river, walking the Water Street and all that stuff, and it was cool, man. I love them Segways. I want a Segway. And I learned something. Didn't know this, even though I'm a lawyer, didn't know that, you can get pulled, the police can pull you over for drinking and driving, for DUI rather, for DUI, driving under the influence, whether even if you're on a bicycle. Like you could be in a car, a bicycle, or what have you. But I'm told, and I haven't done the research, you always got to, verify what people tell you, but I'm told that if you are on a Segway under the influence, okay, it's not against the law, because a Segway is considered to be like a disability assistance device. So it's not like a car or a bicycle or mode of transportation. It's like a device to help you, get around if you have a disability. I don't know, but I'm thinking about investing in these Segways in case, when I'm down in Ybor and I need to get home, I get on the Segway in case, I had a couple of drink things to drink, something like that. But but it was just cool hanging out. All right, so finna get to this case So here's the deal. If you never, DJ cut the music. Let me tell you, DJ cut the music. Let me tell you about this here jury. They say the jury selection jury pool is random. I have never. I have lived in Tampa most of my life. I'm 47 years old. Put it like this right here. I've been voting since I was 18 years old. 47. Almost 30 years I've been voting. Almost all those 30 years I've lived in Hillsborough County, with the exception of 1, 3, 5. So with the exception of 10 years, so for 20 years, I've lived in Hillsborough County, and my place of residence was still Hillsborough County. I was just off for school those other years when I lived in Atlanta. Well, I was in school, Morehouse. So I don't know if I had changed my place of residence then. Maybe I did. But anyway, most of my adult life, I've been a resident of Hillsborough County. I've lived, my address has been the same for since 1998. What's that? 24 years? 1998. Like 24 years? Yeah, right? Is that
I wasn't good in math.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's like 24. It's like 8 and 2 and 4 and something. Yeah, so like 24 years I've lived in the same spot, right? I got my driver's license and all the stuff that they tell me contributes to one, getting the jury duty thing in the mail. I have all that. Certain kinds of permits and licenses and things like that. Man, these people ain't called me yet. I ain't never. My mama, old as she is, my mama was in her 80s, almost in her 80s, or late 70s when she got her last jury duty thing. I had to say too old to go, and I had to sign off for it, get her exempted. And she been selected, summoned several times. That's what the word I was looking for, summoned. They ain't never asked me. So I don't buy this randomness thing. I'm pretty sure that they have, whoever it is that do the random selecting, have made it their business to make sure that I'm not in the jury pool, otherwise known as the veneer. But I just wanted to get that off my chest about that jury selection. So, as I told you, we're gonna go through some jury selection today. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, first of all, just wanna say and so this is how I was gonna come into court. This is how I was gonna do my thing, just like this. So, like you gotta imagine, the judge. Oh, I told you I was gonna tell you how it goes. So generally, what happens is they bring in a panel. At least in this case, the judge intended to bring in a panel of 25, and from that 25, we would eliminate 19 and end up with 6. So that and alternate. So so they're gonna get rid of, ask these questions, go through this voir dire process, and eliminate for the purpose of eliminating. They say pick a jury, but you're not really picking a jury. You're picking who not on the jury. That is really the purpose of the jury selection process. And generally what happens is they bring in that panel, sometimes 30, 35, depending on the kind of case it is. This case, misdemeanor, not a big deal. Panel of 25 should do. Not a whole lot of bias issues or what have you. So they bring in a panel of 25. What generally happens is the judge will ask questions first. And so what I do, I'm not going to give y'all all my secrets. But so the judge asks questions first. And then after the judge asks questions, because the state has the burden of proof, the state, meaning that the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt guilt, of the defendant, my client in all the cases in trial. The state goes after the judge, and then after the judge and the state asks questions of the jury, of the potential jurors, it's my turn. It's our turn. And then we get to ask questions. So that's the setup. So after the judge done already asked what he asked, the state done asked what he asked. Now I'm getting up there, and I'm like,
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
What's the difference between reasonable doubt and a preponderance of the evidence?
Oh, that's easy. Reasonable doubt is a higher standard. Reasonable doubt requires for the fact finder, whether jury or judge, to determine based on the facts and evidence that every reasonable conclusion leads to the person's guilt. So it doesn't have, it's not beyond, people say, what's that? Some people say the stuff that's wrong, beyond every doubt. So it's another phrase people use that's not right, and I don't know it because I don't want to know it. But it's beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond all doubt or anything like that. It's beyond a reasonable doubt, and so reasonable. It's a very high standard. There is a higher standard, but we don't want to talk about that because you rarely see it in criminal or civil cases. Preponderance of the evidence means it just has to be a little bit more than 50%. So, like, if it's half and half, the party who has the burden of proof has not proven the case beyond, by the preponderance of the evidence. But if it's 50.5% this way and 49.5% this way, then you've met that burden of proving by the preponderance of the evidence your case. So beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard that, you have to, and it's not just, every imaginary doubt. Like, you can't be like, well, in outer space, you can't drive because there's no gravity. So, you can't do stuff like that. And this is an extreme example, of course. But a reasonable doubt means that you have to look at the evidence and say beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's a reasonable doubt that it could have been this way, that way, that exculpates or shows innocence. Or show, because you don't really say innocent, you say not guilty. That shows the party's not guilty. Then you gotta say not guilty.
So is this case that you're voir direing for? Is it for reasonable doubt or preponderance of the evidence?
That's a good question, because what I should have said first off is reasonable doubt is the standard in criminal cases. I should have said that first, because that's what you asked the difference between reasonable doubt, preponderance of evidence. Preponderance of the evidence is the standard in civil cases. And some people in voir dire do this kind of thing, like, do you know the difference between reasonable doubt and preponderance of the evidence? And then they ask, because of the difference. One of the major differences is reasonable doubt is criminal, preponderance of the evidence is civil. They ask if you know what the difference is between criminal cases and civil cases, because some people don't know. Do you know the difference?
No.
All right. So in criminal cases, what is the party suing in a criminal case trying to get?
Money.
No. That's what parties in a civil case trying to get. Parties in a civil case trying to get money most times, sometimes some kind of relief, like some kind of injunction, like, don't put that interstate there, give me my house back, but most times civil cases are money damages. On criminal cases is about punishment. We're trying to punish somebody for a crime. The person suing is the state. It's always the state. State versus means it's a criminal case most times. Most times means criminal. Of course, the state can sue you civilly, like when they do that code enforcement jive. It's the city of Tampa versus you. They trying to take your house or something like that. But when you criminal cases, the state is the person, is the entity suing, and they trying to get your hide, your time, your freedom, and sometimes, most times, your money too. But in civil cases, always money damages or some kind of injunction. And and that's one reason why the standard of proof is different. The reasonable doubt versus the preponderance of evidence, because it's such a higher punishment for criminal cases. It's a higher standard of proof required in order to lock somebody up, as opposed to the preponderance of the evidence when it comes to civil cases. So that was a good question. I appreciate that. And I think it's a good time to go to break. Like, we've already given you some courtroom knowledge, as my uncle would say, knowledge. So you got some courtroom knowledge. Now we're going to jump right into voir dire when we get back, right here on the Life Malcolm Show. I'm your host, Life Malcolm. I appreciate you tuning in. Call in, man, 813-444-9588. I see some of you watching. You can call in and holler at your boy. Be on the jury.
By now, we're all aware of the dangers of COVID-19. Like others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a high risk due to their compromised condition. If you are newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely can't wait. Moffitt Cancer Center is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here for you.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecue? Come see them two brothers in the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
Yo, yo, yo. All right. Gentlemen of the jury, my name is Life Malcolm, and I really appreciate you being here today, taking your time for this case. You've heard, I should have said this in case you hadn't joined us before. My name is Life Malcolm. This is Life Malcolm Show. We're jumping into jury selection. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to go back and watch the stuff that happened before the break. But now back to my potential jurors, S in parentheses. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Life Malcolm, and you've heard, the judge ask you questions, and you heard the state ask you questions, and those questions were mainly to help me and the state pick a jury that's going to help my client, Mr. Defendant, get a fair and impartial jury for this case. So since I'm going to ask you some questions about you, I want to tell you some things about me. Sometimes when I go to the grocery store, I look in people's grocery carts and try to see if I can determine what kind of person they are by the stuff they have in their grocery carts. Whether they're vegetarian, whether they are married, whether they are whether they have children, stuff like that. I think I can come to that kind of conclusion based on what's in the grocery cart. And sometimes I come to the right conclusion, and sometimes I've been wrong. I get the opportunity every now and then. Providence allows me to bump into a person I observed at the grocery cart, whose grocery cart I observed, and I can, and I'm in the line. I can say, "Hey, are you have children?" And I'm probably made that conclusion based on cereal, like candy or something in the cart, and they might say, "Nah, I'm a babysitter, and I'm shopping for my clients' children," stuff like that. So I've been wrong before, several times. Mr. Juror, where are you from?
I am from Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, all right. How long have you lived in Hillsborough County?
33 years.
Okay, that's a long time. So you're familiar with the area. All right, gotcha. So you just heard what I said about the grocery store. Tell me, what details or characteristics do you process to come to some conclusions about people?
Well, if I'm using what you use, which is to look at a person's grocery cart and determine who they are, I would look for what they buy and how much of what they buy.
Okay. Any other thing? Because you don't have to use my grocery store analogy, but I'm like, what kind of things? I want to know about you. I just telling you a little something about me, and I want to know about you. Like, do you look at the car, the house, the kind of clothes, the shoes?
Yeah.
What kind of things about people do you look at to not make necessarily pass judgment, but draw conclusions about the kind of person you're observing?
If I'm observing a person physically, face to face, then I judge them based on how they talk, what they wear, how they shake my hand, whether or not they look at me in my eyes, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, those are good. Those are good things. Now, let me ask you this question: have you ever been wrong in what you concluded based on those observations and your actual getting to know that person?
No, I'm usually I'd say I got about a 85% track record.
So you've been wrong sometimes. That's 50.
I have.
Okay, all right. So you've been wrong before. And so what I was going to do was go to not all 25, but almost all 25 and ask those questions. And after asking everybody, then ask, have you ever been wrong, and try to get people to show hands. Just let my part of my little strategy. And so, have you ever been wrong? Cool. All right, good. And then kind of ask a little bit about that, but not too much. Go ahead.
Will the judge allow you to get other people involved in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can talk to all 25 of these people.
Okay.
Now some judges do have rules that set time limits. So they might say you only have 30 minutes to ask questions, and so I would have to, to tailor and restrict myself to how many people I asked, because I have a lot of stuff I want to get through.
Okay.
And so speaking of that, one of the things I want to let you know is I'm going to talk about 3 things today. I'm going to talk about you, I'm going to talk about driving, and I'm going to talk about the police, and just ask you a few questions about those things and be out your way. So, continuing conversation about you, have you ever been accused of doing something that you did not do?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Not good.
Okay, all right. So a little bit more about you. What do you do for a living?
I am a retired postal manager.
Okay, postal manager. So you used to be in a leadership position?
Correct.
All right. Was that job a challenging job?
It was.
What was the most challenging thing about it?
Ensuring that everything that was required of me on a daily basis got done.
Okay, all right. And how long did you do that?
39 years.
39 years. All right, okay. All right, so let me just, and it's kind of an aside. We're going to come back to that. Of course, I'm going around to all these other people, so it won't seem as choppy because I'm asking other people, like, what'd you do for a living and so on and so forth. I'm getting everybody involved. I'm trying to see who's going to talk, who has jobs that are like leadership, where they were in leadership positions, because they might end up being the foreman of the jury. So I'm trying to, get to everybody. I already got, they give you a piece of paper to give. When I say give you, the court gives parties, the state and the defense attorneys, sheets of paper with some basic information about all the jurors, like name, age.
Okay.
I think it depends on the jurisdiction too, but name, age, most times occupation, whether those people have been victims of a crime, accused of a crime.
Does it give schooling, education?
Some of them do, as education level. Did I say married or not married? So marital status. I can't think. Whether or not you have a close relationship to police officers, like stuff like that. So those are basic questions. And so we get that sheet. We get a stack like that for those 25 people. Mm-hmm. And then we get it looks like a calendar with all the squares, and it has those people's names in them already. And so now, based on the sheet that we get, we're writing notes. Okay, law enforcement relationship, married, whatever
right.
germane to the particular case we have. So we filling out those squares. So based on that, I already know something about these people, but it doesn't say how long they've been working. If they say what's your occupation, it might say like you said, retired postals. It doesn't say manager necessarily. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I get to ask a little bit more. So I'm going around doing that. So now switching from occupation, and now I'm going to ask. Like I said, we're going to talk about you now. I just want to talk about driving for a little bit.
Okay.
And you've been in Hillsborough County for, 3 decades,
yes.
right? And let me ask you this. is anybody in the jury pool ever not driven before? Okay, good. So you've driven before, all right? So I've been driving since I was like 16. I'm 47 now, and I got to tell you that my driving record bears out that I'm a much better driver these days in the most recent 16 years than I was in the first 15 years of my driving career. And don't worry, I'm not going to pry into your personal driving record, but I do want to know, how long have you been driving?
50 years.
50 years. All right. What is the most challenging thing about driving to you?
That's like walking or riding a bicycle. It's not a challenge. You just kind of do it. It's on autopilot almost.
Okay, so you've been in Hillsborough County for 33 years. Have you lived anywhere else outside, or you travel much?
I do travel.
You drive when you travel?
Sometimes.
Okay, do you find some cities like just crazy, like the drive in?
Absolutely.
Okay, so in those cities, what's the most challenging thing? What's the craziest thing about driving in those places?
Well, there's a saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Right,
but when you're driving and you see craziness like in New York or Chicago, you don't want to do that because it can be really dangerous.
What makes it dangerous? That's what I'm trying to say.
Speed.
Okay, all right.
Cutting in and out of traffic, just running stop signs. It's kind of like commonplace.
So is it fair to say that the thing you find, if I understand that you've been, you're 50 years driving veteran, so it's like walking, but is it fair to say, and I don't want to put words in my mouth, just correct me if I'm wrong, but is it fair to say that you find other people's one of the things you find challenging about driving is other people's behavior on the road, like they're speeding and
correct.
Okay, that's fair to say. Good. Now, in that vein, what kind of people do you think make the safest drivers? And what I mean by that is like, men, women, young, old, middle-aged, black, white, experienced, not experienced.
Seasoned.
Okay, experience matters, all right?
Yes.
Does it matter to you, you think older, younger, middle-aged?
No, just experience is the best teacher.
Okay, all right. So we talked a bit ago about that grocery cart thing and how I'm looking and see the cereal. So do you think there's a certain kind of car you can look at and tell what kind of driver is in that car? Like maybe like what I guess let me ask a better question.
Absolutely not.
What do you think that there are certain kinds of cars that safe drivers drive? Let me ask that question. Yeah.
Subaru.
Okay, all right. So I wasn't necessarily looking for the brand, but I'm thinking like SUV. Sedans, sports car. Do you think, okay,
that goes back to your question, how do you judge people?
Right,
so if, I look at most Subaru drivers as like safely conscious type people.
Okay. What do you think makes Subaru drivers that way?
I don't know. They just got that look.
Oh. Can you say what that looks like other than the car? Can you say what that look like?
It's just like a Johnny Appleseed type look.
Okay, all right.
A tree hugger type look.
Okay, all right, okay. Last question about driving. When you think about traffic and drivers, we talked about speeding a bit ago. Do you think that drivers tend to go faster or slower on when there's light traffic, when the roads are kind of empty? You think drivers tend to go faster or slower?
Well, if it's traffic, they're going to go slower because they're forced to.
No, but if it's light traffic, if the roads are almost empty, do you think drivers tend to go faster or slower? Oh, we got a caller. Caller, come in.
Hey, what's going on, Life?
What's going on?
DJ CEO.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It was great meeting you at the concert the other day, Life.
Yeah, likewise, brother.
I did jury duty twice, and the questions they ask is so out of the blue, but obviously they have a way of doing it.
Right.
And when DJ CEO just mentioned a Subaru, it'll get him canceled out. Unfortunately, I did. He don't even know to get him canceled out.
Yeah,
I did my last jury duty trial. I was on the jury, and at the end of the case, I guess they got to X two people off the jury. The one lady, it was an assault. It was actually a murder trial. And, they put a vegan on the jury pool.
Okay.
And as I'm going home, I'm saying there's no way they're gonna pick her. I know they canceling some people out. They just got her on as when they get them two, each side get to cancel somebody out. I just knew she was getting canceled out on trial. And vegan, you don't even believe in anything with a mother she doesn't eat.
Yeah.
So, but they're gonna put you on a assault trial.
Yeah.
Come on, you know you was never gonna make it.
Yeah. That was a good question. If they asked that question, like if you're a vegan, I mean that's a good question for that trial. So, no, I appreciate that.
I just want to say one more thing. While I was on the jury duty, I actually had to laugh because the defense attorney, when he went to questioning a 20-year-old police veteran. He mentioned, I don't know what the word was, but he mentioned how before he bring these police on, I'm going to ask them questions. And anytime they're fluttering and don't know what to say, they're going to ask me. On trial, I forget the name he used, but he said they go to jury trial training and all that. But it was some kind of word he used. Yeah. And when he did that to three separate detectives, I laughed a little bit, and they looked over at me, and I'm like, "Hey, he just told us what was going to happen, so this guy lying." Detective lying.
Police are definitely trained witnesses. Believe that. They're trained investigators and trained witnesses. That's why you have no business talking to the police when they start asking you questions if you don't have an attorney with you at that time. But let me jump back into this jury duty, Joe. I appreciate you calling in, man. It's always a pleasure hearing from you. You got to holler back at me next week. All right, and let me know if this juror should be on the jury too. Text, email us, do something in the Facebook chat. Let me know if you would select this juror for this case or not. All right. So we're gonna take a quick break and come right back.
Love being number one. When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
Get ready for over 5 decades of music. It's the last stop on the Love Train Tour, starring the OJs. It's your last chance to see your favorite group. The OJs live in concert. With Gerald Austin and the Manhattans. Friday, August 26th in the Strand Center. Also featuring Shirley Murdoch. The OJs with hit after hit. With Gerald Austin and the Manhattans and Shirley Murdoch. Say goodbye. Friday, August 26th in the Strand Center. It's the Farewell Tour for the OJs. For tickets, go online to strandcenter.org. Put your hands together for the OJs, Gerald Austin, Manhattans, and Shirley Murdoch.
Yo, all right. So, Mr. Juror, I promised you that I was going to talk to you about talk to you about driving, and we covered those topics now. I also told you I was going to talk to you about the police. What are your general thoughts about law enforcement?
I used to, as I've gotten older, my thoughts have changed about law enforcement.
What are your thoughts now that you're older?
I just hate to say this, but I just don't like what the police represent
Okay. Let me ask you this: if
to black people.
if police come in today and testify, would you be able to, based on your feeling about them, would you be able to, hear their testimony and still be fair and impartial in making a decision at verdict time?
Yes, I would, because I wouldn't be judging the institution. I'd be judging the individual.
Got you. All right. That's good. Thank you. And what are some of the ways you think that police gather evidence in criminal cases?
What are some of the ways that they gather
evidence? Yeah.
Well, they use forensics. They gather things in and around the scene of the crime.
Okay.
And then they talk to individuals.
Okay. People like individuals
Closely
over there
related
who
to who might know
Right,
something.
got you. A bit ago we talked about our occupations. I'm talking to the whole jury panel, right? So we talked about our occupations and stuff like that. And let me ask you this: when you in your job, you were a manager, in your job, what happened when you got something wrong? When you came to the wrong conclusion? Like you said, 85% you were right about people. What happens at your job when you get something wrong?
Well, you correct it.
But I mean, like, what are the consequences? You get something wrong. What's the effect?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that just really depends.
Okay. All right. That's a good answer. But let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Are there occupations where you think that if the person gets it wrong, there's, let me ask you a different question. What occupations do you think people just can't get it wrong? Like,
surgeons.
Okay.
Policemen.
Okay. We can stop there.
We can stop
We're
there.
talking about police because I know we're gonna say pilots.
Yeah, pilots. Very good.
Cooks.
Yeah.
You don't unfortunately, right? But we'll stop there though, because I do want to talk about. I'm glad that you said police because we're talking about this, the police section, as I mentioned. So, what do you think happens when police get it wrong, when they come to the wrong conclusion? What do you think the consequences are? Who get yeah?
Well, like I say, it's over the years, the institution has changed my mind because there has been little accountability when things have gone wrong, and even in the eyes of things going wrong, there is no accountability.
All right. So then I would poll the whole jury. Is there anybody in here who thinks police never come to wrong conclusions? What about you, Mr. Juror? Do you think police never come to wrong conclusions?
No.
Sometimes they get it wrong.
They get it wrong.
Do you think police ever lie?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think happens when police lie?
That just like I said, there's been little accountability. Just recently,
what do you think happens to the people they lie on? You know, what I mean? Like what's the effect of them lying?
It's like a deep cut.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of cut that requires stitches,
Mm-hmm.
a long healing process,
Okay.
and then the scar is still there. You can look at that scar and see it and know and live it again every time you look at it.
Yeah, I got you. So over the past few years, as you know, there have been, after citizens have shared numerous videos of police officers killing unarmed black men and other kinds of police misconduct, many police departments have begun to require their police officers to wear body cameras and require their police cars to be equipped with cameras, etc. Why do you think that these police departments all over the country require police to wear body cameras and require body cameras in police cars? I mean, cameras in police cars.
It's a push from the community to get them to do that, but
what's the
it
purpose?
hasn't helped.
But what's the purpose?
The purpose is to show John Q. Public what actually happened.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, speaking of showing the public what actually
Accountability.
happened, right? Accountability. That's a good word. Now, speaking of showing the public what actually happened, let's talk. Got just a couple more questions, and we'll be done. What kind of evidence do you expect to see in a criminal trial such as this?
Just factual evidence.
In what form? Video,
pictures,
police reports.
testimony,
Okay, like reports, written reports.
and verbal.
Got you. Okay. All right. So there's this game that some people play, like Would You Rather, and are you familiar with that? Like, would you rather this or rather that?
I'd never played that game,
But
but
you heard of
okay,
it?
I've heard of it.
All right. So this is gonna be, what's worse, more than anything. Not Would You Rather. My client now, has the right to remain silent, even in this hearing. He does not have to testify. Do you know that the National Society, the National Social Anxiety Center says that the fear of public speaking is the most common phobia ahead of death, spiders, and heights. And do you know that?
That's why a lot of people won't call in, because they're afraid to speak out in public.
Right. And so if my client chooses not to say anything because he exercises his right to say nothing while he watches the state prove the case beyond that reasonable doubt, how would that affect the way you render a verdict in this case?
Wait a minute. Say that again.
If my client chooses to exercise his right to remain silent, right? And watch the state prove, because the state, my client doesn't have to say anything. The state has the burden to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. My client doesn't have to say a thing.
Right.
And if he chooses to exercise that right and say nothing, how would that affect the verdict that you render in this case? Or, how would that affect the verdict you render in this case?
I mean, I'm so accustomed to people not getting on the witness stand that it wouldn't matter. Back in the day when you saw Perry Mason, you waited for Perry Mason to break them down, but that's not how the court works nowadays. So you just
it probably wasn't how it worked then either. It worked like that on TV.
It was good drama.
Yeah. All right. So my last question, gentlemen of the jury, is what's worse? Finding a guilty person not guilty, or finding an innocent person guilty?
That's one and the same.
What's worse? You don't have to tell me. Just think about it. Thank you so much for your time. And so that's how I would have ended this, the thing, you know what I mean?
Good job.
So what do you think, though? And so now I'll tell you, it was a racing case, racing on the highway. And, the cops say that, my client was racing on the highway. My client said he wasn't racing. And, so it's like the cop's word against my client's word. That's why, I was trying to set it up like,
But they got video of that, right? Did he chase him?
No.
Well, how did they know he was racing?
So believe it or not, the statutory definition of racing, we race on the highway every day. Because the statutory definition is, it don't matter the speed. It doesn't matter the speed. It's competing to get over in a lane, competing to get ahead of another car. Yeah. That's it's crazy. It's like 316192 or something like that. Florida statute, something like that. I think it's 316192. But it's 192. I think it's 192. But it's crazy. Just look it up.
Racing. So that's racing, not speeding.
Yeah, not letting somebody over. No, not. I'm saying speeding. Not speeding does not equal racing. Is not what I'm saying. Yeah. Right. I'm saying, but racing has nothing to do with speed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay.
So racing is like, not letting somebody get over in front of you. That's racing.
Okay.
If you trying to maintain your lane and not let this person get over, you racing. If you trying to get ahead of this person, you racing, according to the statute. If you trying to get in front of this person to get over, overtake that lane, you racing.
Okay.
Yeah. So like you don't. Yeah. So it's a hell of an interpretation. It leaves it up to a lot to interpretation and what this guy says. And we were gonna have a good time. I think we're gonna be able to pick a good jury with some of these questions. And because
They were good.
In my view, the police got it wrong, and we were we were warming the jury up to that idea of coming to wrong conclusions. And when the police get it wrong, bad things can happen.
Right.
That kind of stuff. And then that last question: what happens? What's worse? Sending innocent, letting a guilty man go free, or sending an innocent man to prison? Yes.
That's a
I'll let you rest with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
When you're in the jury room back there, you like, damn, he might be innocent. So I was trying to get him like that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, you did, especially with that last question.
All right. Cool, man. Well, listen, y'all. Thank y'all so much for sitting in on the voir dire, and appreciate the jury coming through. By the way, you on the jury. We're going to pick you. Thank you so much for your honest answers, and thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Life Doctor Show right here on InTouch News.